Okay, good evening to everybody. We'd like to thank Hillary and Jeff Tritz for sponsoring this video. It's Le'ilu Nishmat, Hillary's father, Alexander Ben Tzvi, Zichrono Livracha, that he's in the schut of the Dvar Torah, amongst other things. May his neshama have Aliyah B'Gan Eden. On this week's Parsha, the Haftorah for Parshat Yitro comes from Yeshayahu, and the topic of the Haftorah is basically the initiation of Yeshayahu for his prophecy. It's a matter actually of dispute, but if we were speaking about the content of the Haftorah is Maaseh Merkava. Maaseh Merkava literally means the story about Merkava means the chariot. What chariot are we referring to? We're referring to the chariot which metaphorically, allegorically transports Hashem's glory from one place to another place. This is called Maaseh Merkava. The Parsha basically deals with metaphysics, the world, describing a little bit the world, the spiritual world, beyond our physical world. For example, it starts off that Yeshayahu sees this throne, and around the throne there are Seraphim, burning angels. The burning angels have got 6 wings. Usually the meaning of the wings, as explained by the Rambam in Moreh Nevuchim, it refers to angels or forces, and their forces, especially the spiritual forces, even things like our capacity to think. These forces operate at tremendous speeds, and that's why they are described as having wings. In other words, that they can fly very quickly. That's part of the description. So this topic of Maaseh Merkava, of the spiritual world beyond our physical world, we read about, as I said, in the Haftorah of Yeshayahu, which speaks when we've got Matan Torah, and similarly we read of such a content on Shavuot, which again is we read about Matan Torah, the Aseret Dibrot, and there we also speak about metaphysics, but not from the book of Yeshayahu, but the book of Yechezkel. And there, in the book of Yechezkel, the Maaseh Merkava is described in much more detail than it is in this Haftorah. So I just want to, as an introductory comment, just to mention what the Ibn Ezra says, not dafka in connection to the Haftorah, but he makes an interesting comment. He says, there are people who are what he calls reikei moach. Reikei moach, people who are like empty-headed, that they wonder, what in the world did Moshe Rabbeinu do on Har Sinai for 40 days? What's there to learn? I mean, there was no Rashi, there was no Rambam, there was no Tosfot, there was no Tanakh. What is it? Just Torah, with a couple of 630 mitzvot. For that, it took him 40 days. Private, no eating, no drinking. HaKadosh Baruch Hu explaining everything very well. What took him so long? So the Ibn Ezra says, but what do you mean? If a person would be millions of years on Har Sinai, he wouldn't be able to absorb everything that was given to Moshe, because it wasn't only the technical mitzvot, it's exactly that, the secrets of the universe. How did Hashem sort of make the world? What's the laws of history? How does Hashem, these spiritual forces, which we call angels, how do they operate? When do they operate? Why do we on Shabbat say, address the angels in a certain way? So all these secrets of the world, besides the technicalities, in inverted commas, of the halacha, were revealed to Moshe Rabbeinu. So that's why I'm making this comment, because when we look at the Haftorah and we speak about metaphysics, the connection with the Torah is that there is the body of the Torah and there's the soul of the Torah, which is the upper and spiritual world. Okay. Having said that, the Haftorah starts off as follows: B'shnat mot hamelech Oziyahu, v'ar'eh et Adonai yoshev al kisei ram v'nisa v'shulav mele'im ale ta'achal. In the year of the death of King Uzziyahu, Yeshayahu is now speaking. He says, I saw the Lord sitting on a high and exalted throne, and his lower extremity filled the temple, and Seraphim stood above for him, six wings to each one, etc. So actually, even though it says that this vision that he saw was in the year in which the king who was living at the time of Yeshayahu was Uzziyahu, that it was the year in which he died. Actually, Rashi brings from the Midrashim that actually Uzziyahu didn't die. And when it speaks about his death, it means that Yeshayahu had this prophecy, or he had this vision, first of all, of what is going on in the spiritual world, a throne and angels. He had that in the year that Uzziyahu became a leper. I'm just using it as a free translation. Everybody knows that a tzara isn't exactly leprosy, but I'm just using it as a very loose translation. So what's the significance of this? First of all, was if he didn't die and Uzziyahu became a leper, why does it say he died? So the Gemara and the Midrashim explain that a leper, because of his physical condition and his isolation from society, he has to be outside of the walls of a city. So that's why he is considered as if he was dead. Now, what I want to share is just with this technicality in inverted commas of Uzziyahu becoming a leper. I wanted to share like maybe an insight that is for all of us. So if we go to Divrei, if you want to look it up, Divrei Yamim, in the book of Chronicles, the second book of Chronicles 2, chapter number 26, it describes what did Uzziyahu, who was actually a very good king. In other places, it says he did that which was righteous and straight in the eyes of God. So what made him get leprosy? It was like a punishment. So in Chronicles, it says that at a certain stage, when he was very successful as a king, he decided one day that he wants to bring incense in the Beit HaMikdash. And the Kohanim, the head Kohen, Azariah, and other Kohanim were with him, like protested violently, and they said to Uzziyahu, listen, you're a wonderful king, you're a great king, I'm just paraphrasing, and but it's not for you to bring Ketoret. That's a function of the Kohanim, and you have to now leave. And when he got very angry with the Kohanim, and that's when he became a leper. He had to be taken outside of the temple, and he remained a leper till his dying day. So what has this got to do with anything? The question is, what made Uzziyahu do what he did? I mean, he was a good king, and he suddenly wanted to do something which is not the function of a king, it's a function of the Kohanim. So what made him want to now do the Saveirah, to bring incense in the Beit HaMikdash? It's like similar to what Nadav and Avihu wanted to do. They brought incense when they shouldn't have brought incense. And the Megdavar and others say they had this like longing to come closer to Hashem, even though they knew that it wasn't 100% right, but they were prepared. That's what they wanted to do. The Barbanel explains that why did when you look at Chronicles, it says that the leprosy, that it was on his forehead. Why wasn't it on his hand? Why wasn't it on his foot? Why, that's you do the Ketoret by taking incense, putting it in one's palm, and then sprinkling it on the golden altar, which is in the Beit HaMikdash. Why did the dafka break out on his forehead? So the Barbanel says over here that because the mistake, the whole sin came because of a mistake, something which was his mind dictated something which was incorrect. He had an incorrect opinion. What he wanted to do with his hands I mean, the hands is just a vehicle to implement what he's thought. Now, what was wrong with exactly his thought process? And this is now the gist of what finally what I'm coming to. Is like the Barbanel seems to say that as we grow older in life, we become, like unlike our youth, we become like more broad. I mean, hopefully that's how it is. When we're younger and we haven't got the experience of life and we haven't learned such a lot, so we tend, I'm speaking generalities, to be more narrow-minded, more committed, more inflexible, very focused on like detail. And as we get older, we see like a bigger picture. We see the world's a big place. We see that there's so many different forces. I just want to say in parenthesis, Rabbi Tan once told me that in his experience, he saw that people who, younger people, coped less well with death at Shiva than people who are older. Now, we would think that people are older, that the death reminds them of their mortality much more than younger people. And Rabbi Tanz was saying that in his experience, it seems to be the opposite. And he suggested that it's as follows. Young people, they think that they are invincible. They think their whole life is in front of them. They think that they've got just a degree, they're doing well in business, etc. So they think that they're less vulnerable. And suddenly, when they come across death, so then it rattles them. Older people already know that, you know what, we're not in control. There's so many other factors. The world is so vast. There's so many things that are happening. So therefore, they've already internalize the fact that they're not in control, and therefore they cope with death better. So to get back to the point, we asked, why did Uzziyahu, it says he died in the Haftorah. We said that it doesn't mean death. He became a leper. He became a leper because it struck his forehead. Why? Because he wanted to bring incense. And we ask him, why did he want to bring incense? He wanted to become closer to God. But it says that only a Kohen do it. And now Barbanel is explaining, that's the problem. The problem is, as we get older and we become more broad-minded, we sometimes think that the details are not so important. The paradox is that because we see the bigger picture, because we see how vast and how great the universe and halacha and midrashim and gmarot are, so we tend to sometimes think that the detail is not important. That's something that youth dafka are very latched on to, that which is detailed. And in Matan Torah, when we read about Matan Torah Dibrot, and when we read about the Haftorah, about this great spiritual world and angels, and we've got wings and all these forces, we think that the message of it starting off when describing the metaphysics and the revelation of the Torah, to never ever forget this point. The Torah is flexible. In the Torah, we allow for tremendous leeway. There are all ways in which the halacha is flexible and expands to incorporate things. But we must never, ever, even when we get older and even when we know and even when we see the great picture, to never do chas v'chalila, the natural tendency of what Uzziyahu did is to forget the details. No matter how great we are and how comprehensive and how vast the world is, to always remember that message. Shabbat shalom l'kulam.